Again, my name is Allyson Edwards. After that great introduction, I am the head of marketing at WikiHow, where at WikiHow, we're trying to teach everybody on the planet how to do anything. Before we jump in and get started to talk about our mission and kind of how we came to be and what we're doing, what kind of projects we're working on, we got this great tip to get everybody involved, use our voices for a moment. We loved this idea so much. So what we're gonna do is we're all gonna go off of our mute buttons in just a moment. And then I want everybody to just say hello. Hallie and I really wanna hear your voices all at the same time. It's gonna be crazy, but I think it'll be a really, really great time to use your voice because we want to speak with you during and after the presentation and hear from you. We want you to use your voice and give us your feedback at a certain point. So let's all go off of our mute buttons on the count of 3 and then just
Hello, good evening.
Hello. Hey.
Nice to connect with you, all of you.
Good evening. Hey, Soli.
Hello.
Jayanti here.
Hi, Lakshmi here.
How are you?
Good.
How are you?
Fine, madam.
How are you?
Hi everybody, this is Sandeep from Maharashtra, India.
Hi, Jayanti Shrikant from Kolkata.
Lakshmi Vishwanathan from Reality Gives
From
Mumbai.
Karnataka.
okay. Oh,
I am Divya Mishra from Raipur.
bye.
I'm Aya from Hyderabad.
So, Ashok Upadhyay from Faridabad, Haryana.
Controlling mergers and market power, a program for reviving antitrust in America. The book was
I am Vijay from
released by
Gujarat.
the Competition Policy
I'm
International
Sukanya from
Publishing.
Gujarat.
Give you a quick background before we start the conversation.
Good evening. I am
So
Vijay
RG
from
has 3
Jamnagar,
substantive
Gujarat.
roles, primarily speaking, checking the adverse effects on competition on account of anti-competitive agreements, evaluate the abuse of dominance.
Wonderful. Thank you everybody for saying hello.
So great to hear all your voices.
Yeah, that was wonderful. We're all people, we're all here. So with that in mind, we'll jump in and teach you a little bit more about WikiHow. So I'm hoping that at some point you've used WikiHow, even if you didn't know that you have. We're trying to help everybody on the planet learn how to do anything. So WikiHow is a website where we create step-by-step guides in order to teach you how to. If you've ever Googled or thought, how do I do this or how does this work, you usually will find yourself on WikiHow. We are the world's most popular how-to website. So we are actually, that's actually a true fact. We're live in 18 languages, including Hindi. We're constantly launching new languages year over year. Really, I think to continue to, our goal to help everyone on the planet, we want to make our content as accessible as possible. And so we like to not just translate these guides, but also localize them into different languages. We have over 180,000 of those guides. So over 180,000 titles on different how-to topics. And we're really growing that, day over day and week over week and making those core 180 or so guides better every time. And we help over 150 million different people every month. So every month over 150 million different people come to WikiHow to learn how to. So that number is actually much, much higher for those of us who like to come back to WikiHow over and over again to keep learning new things. And we are ranked in kind of by a ranking system called Alexa. We are ranked in the top 200 websites on the internet for traffic. So we're one of the 200 largest, most visited websites on the entire internet, which is actually really, really fun for us to think about because we're only a team of about 28 people based in a house in Palo Alto. So we're a small team. We work really, really hard, but we really try to serve, you know, as many people as possible with our guides. So if you've never used WikiHow before, you might be wondering what a guide is or what it looks like. We will write these guides on any topic. They're step by step. Here are a few screenshots of some articles that you might find on WikiHow. How to fall asleep, how to deal with a bully, or how to avoid work from home burnout. We really kind of will run the gamut in terms of these topics that might require a lot of research and might be a little bit, you know, more about your emotional or social or physical wellness. Sometimes our topics can be very serious, very, very helpful. How to, you know, tell if you have a cold or a flu, how to determine symptoms of a heart attack. But we don't just do that. We also like to have fun and like to meet people where they're at in their learning journey, because at some point we all are like, how do I add someone's birthday to my calendar? Or how could I, you know, I'm curious, I want to tinker with creating an electric bicycle on a budget. We've all, you know, at some point thought, how am I going to have my first kiss? You're a teenager, or you're a kid, or you're, you know, even if you're 50 and you've never had a first kiss, we want you to be able to come to WikiHow to learn how to do, you know, anything at any point. And we want to be there for you on your learning journey in a way that's non-judgmental, very friendly, and very open. We are very human about the way that we like to help people learn how to do things. So our articles really do run the gamut in terms of the types of content that we cover. Nothing is, you know, too small or too insignificant to learn. If somebody wants to learn it, we will teach them. And I think that that's something that's very special about WikiHow. So how we're able to do this, how we're able to create so many guides, how we're able to do this in so many languages, is that we are a very, very collaborative website. So we are all, you know, both internally and some of the volunteers that work with us that we'll talk about in a little bit in this webinar. We are all focused on our goal. We're all very driven by the mission of teaching everybody on the planet how to do anything. And one thing that I find is just so heartwarming, very true to kind of the altruistic foundations of WikiHow, is that everything that you read on WikiHow was written by somebody who wanted to help someone else. So we really are very much in the spirit of knowledge sharing, supporting people, and really trying to help as many people as possible. And it's really wonderful to know that when people come on the site and volunteer their time and make an edit, you know, they want to help you. When you read an article, somebody wanted to help you at that point, very sincerely. In order to do that with these volunteers, you know, we are based in a structure like Wikipedia. I'm sure you've heard of Wikipedia or used Wikipedia. They're also a wiki, which means that essentially anybody can create an account and log in and make edits to articles. We'll talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons of this in a moment, but this has enabled us to, you know, work with and collaborate with many, many people who have had these personal experiences that they can then share on our article pages. So in this case, how to study, you know, over 350 different people have edited this article to really make it as, you know, robust and as accurate as possible. And yes, you'll notice that there is a co-author stamp. That means an expert has looked at this article and said, okay, this is great information. But that also means that 366 other co-authors, other people just like you and me, have been able to, you know, give their own personal experience. So even though I'm not a PhD or a professor or, you know, a professional in academics, I maybe have some really great tips as, let's say I'm a student, let's say I'm a teacher. I may have some really great tips on how to study that I want to share with other people because I want to help them with a fun tip that I know. I can come on WikiHow and add that tip in here. And then on our end, internally, kind of on the employee side, our content team will make sure that that flows, you know, in the article. So we really do kind of combine what we call, what we've has been written about us before in the news that I just love this word is that WikiHow is an amalgamation of human experiences. So we are just combined human experiences, expert knowledge, kind of all in these really, really helpful, easy how-to step-by-step guides that are very actionable to help you learn exactly what you need to do in almost any situation. So WikiHow for us is really important, especially during this time in COVID. We'll talk about this, but you know, most publishers, just to give you a sense, most publishers just have one person write an article and then it's done and then it's over. WikiHow, in contrast, has been edited. The average WikiHow article has been edited by 23 people and reviewed by 16. So that is a lot of opinions. That's a lot of feedback. That is a lot of eyeballs to making sure that these articles are really good. And then, you know, they can evolve over time. So I'll let Hallie jump in and tell you a little bit about how we monitor that feedback and how articles, you know, not just get all of this great information, but how they actually evolve over time.
Yeah, so hi, Hallie here. Thank you so much, Allison. I think that was a great introduction to why WikiHow is so special. One of the things you might be wondering is, well, if anyone can edit an article, how in the world do you make sure that those edits are good? You see a lot of vandalism on the internet. People might not have the best opinions. How do we verify that this is good information? What's really cool about WikiHow is that every single edit that is made to an article page is patrolled by an actual human being. So not a robot that checks if this is positive or negative, but by a volunteer who looks at an edit and says, is this on average helping the page? How is this sustainable? It's sustainable because we have such a great dedicated community who really believe in knowledge philanthropy. And not only that, we find that more people come to WikiHow wanting to help than trying to hurt pages. And I think that's a really cool kind of just reflection of optimism about human beings, that we actually tend to want to help and make things better. And next slide. So this community is a core part of making WikiHow great, the community that helps us to edit articles, to add advice, to patrol edits. Another thing that makes WikiHow great is our collaborations with experts and partners. So in that article, How to Study, you saw that PhD up in the top right corner who had reviewed that article. WikiHow has worked with over 600 experts like that across a breadth of subjects to ensure that our content is trustworthy, accurate, and helpful. So whether we're working with medical doctors, psychologists, academics, teachers like yourself, or really amazing organizations like we have a few written up here. Recently, we worked with the United Nations Foundation to verify our coronavirus content. We executed an amazing partnership with them to make sure that that information was as accurate as possible, as up to date as possible, and that we're always updating that. Mental Health America, it's one of the top mental health organizations in the US. We've worked with them on a ton of our mental health content to make sure that our guides in the mental health and wellness space are accurate. These experts do a number of things. They not only review articles, they also add advice, they answer reader questions. We worked on really great video content that you can find on our YouTube channel. All kinds of things that we're doing with experts to constantly make our content better and make it top of the line. So here is one example of an article that was co-authored by the United Nations Foundation. Frequently asked questions and answers about coronavirus. This brings us to a really important question, which is how can I or my students tell if an article is trustworthy? Thank you to some of you guys who filled out the form before this webinar. We saw this question in there and we thought it was really important to touch on it during the presentation. So here you can see this expert co-author up in the right corner, co-authored by the United Nations Foundation. You also see it right underneath the article title. An expert co-author is a great way to know that an article is trustworthy. I think this is also a really important point of getting your students in the habit of looking at that author stamp and seeing, if there's either an expert or sometimes it says WikiHow staff editor. That shows you that our team of PhDs and professional content editors have looked at a page. That's another really great sign of trustworthiness. But authorship is not the only way. And we can have a wiki page that's been entirely edited by community that is really trustworthy, because like we said before, community can be PhDs, it can be teachers, it can be a lot of really amazing people. So what is the other step you can take to tell if an article is trustworthy? You can always be looking at those sources and citations. That's another thing that I think is really important to train your students to be looking for on the internet. Not only authorship, but sources and citations. And we go a little bit above and beyond, I think, to help students visually see whether there are trustworthy sources. So you can look for these little green check marks. Our team of content editors, our team led by PhDs, has created a list of especially trustworthy sources. Now, we're always trying to cite websites that are trustworthy, but we've compiled a list of websites that we think are really above and beyond, always up to date, always the best material, really academic, like the World Health Organization, like the CDC. And when you see that little green check mark, you know, oh, that's a really trustworthy source that this information is coming from. You can also have your students go to that references section and see where this stuff is coming from. Is it coming from .govs or is it coming from a blog? You know, make sure that you're training your students to look for those sources and citations and references to know that you're on a really trustworthy WikiHow article.
Awesome. So with all of that in mind, working with experts, some of the wonderful partnerships that we've had, and just our, our community and our growth over time, WikiHow really is in the intersection of education and technology. We've been able to move and grow with changes of the internet. The internet landscape has changed so much over the last 15 years. We were founded in 2005, so we're 15 years old and we've seen a lot. But we've noticed that our wiki-based structure has really kind of helped to sort of allow our ship to float and sort of weather any kind of changes in the internet landscape. And we have found that over the last 15 years, we have really had a lot of strength in this great intersection of pedagogy, technology, and networks, or like different types of people, different use cases of WikiHow, especially as they've changed over time. Again, just to sort of hammer home the point that as a wiki, our content is editable, which means that we are flexible to customize and adapt articles as they change or as they're applied in different contexts. I think something that we're about to share with you with coronavirus articles related to sheltering in place or quarantining yourself during this historical time that we're all living in, we're able to adapt articles. So for example, how to throw a graduation party. Right now, I think, a lot of students are graduating from high school or they're graduating from university or other programs and are unable to throw big parties or, celebrate this amazing milestone that they've had. We just had, Teacher Appreciation Week, at least in the United States, just in the last couple of weeks. And a lot of students could not appreciate their teachers in person as we normally might. And so what WikiHow is able to do are go to those pages that are seemingly kind of insignificant. Maybe it's not directly about how to treat coronavirus, but they are important. So we're able to customize and adapt articles like how to throw a graduation party when you're in quarantine, right? We can add those methods and we can add those perspectives to make sure that our content is, very robust, very relevant, and that it, and kind of this third point, evolves over time to make sure that we are effectively achieving our mission of teaching. So ultimately, we want to be the support. We want to be a teaching platform. We are a teaching platform that can be accessed, by the wikihow.com. But we really feel, I think that we're more than that, and we'd like to become more than that. And so with that, I'll pass it back over to Hallie to tell you a few different ways that we've sort of expanded beyond just writing our guides and letting people find us, and how we've maybe partnered with some people to extend our reach a little bit.
Yeah, so I think what WikiHow provides is a really amazing platform, and we've been able to, and also really amazing content. And in both of those capacities, we've been able to partner with organizations in really cool ways. So when I say that we're a platform, that means that other people can come and use WikiHow for what they want to use it for. So if you want to write a guide on WikiHow that you're going to share with people at your school, you can do that. And we have partnered with organizations to help them put their content somewhere that everyone can access it. So for example, with the California Science Center, this is a science center in Los Angeles that runs camps for kids on science, and they do a lot of science experiments. In the COVID-19 context, we're obviously having to adapt a lot of that to become virtual. So we're partnering with the California Science Center to update their curriculum to go on WikiHow so that kids from all over, more than even just in California, can access those science experiments online. And because we have this step-by-step visual format, it's really perfect for kids who are trying to come learn how to do these science experiments. So that is one way we use our platform to help people. We also use our content. So we've adapted our content for a partner organization called Newsella that creates student reading level guides about the news. And we've been able to adapt some of our really great content like on wellness and anxiety for students of Newsella. Another really cool one, we work with Mitifier. This is a Finland-based educational tech company that works on bullying. So they try and reduce loneliness and increase peer-to-peer connections in the classroom. WikiHow has been able to help them adapt some of their amazing social emotional learning content into video. So because we've also established a great video presence on our platform, so you can find a lot of our guides not only in text and in illustration but also on YouTube and video. We've been able to work with Mitifier on some really cool child-friendly videos. Adovo is one that's really special as well. We thought we'd point it out here because it's a really interesting educational application. So we work on providing educational resources for incarcerated people in the United States through a platform called Adovo. WikiHow does really well with life skills. We do, how to do your taxes, how to interview for a job, how to work on that cover letter or resume. I guess in the Indian context, I know it's called something different likely, but how to do these life skills that everyone learns at some point. And sometimes for people who are incarcerated, it can be really important to have stuff on mental health, like how to control your anxiety when you're dealing with a lot. And so being able to adapt our guides to fit these different contexts, I think is something really special that we do with our partners. And that brings us to Firki. Obviously, the reason we're all here today is this amazing platform that you guys all use to find awesome teacher development resources. At WikiHow, we've been able to adapt some of our content that is really perfect for teachers to fit on this Firki platform. I hope after the webinar, you guys will go and search by partners, use that really cool feature Firki has, and explore some of those guides. We have a few up right here, how to teach kindergarten, how to motivate high school students. I think these are some of the really interesting, we have stuff in this how to teach framework. We also have social and emotional wellness titles. We have how to learn. There are some really cool ones on, how to work with dyslexic students or students who have different learning capabilities or disabilities or are differently abled in a learning context. And so please, by all means, go explore these guides. We think it's really special that we've gotten to adapt some of our guides to the Firki platform, and hopefully this list will just keep growing.
So with that in mind, a lot of our content and what we're creating, right? Everybody is thinking about COVID-19 and coronavirus and distance learning and virtual classrooms and everything that comes with having to stay home right now to slow the spread of this epidemic. And because of the adaptable nature of WikiHow's Wiki platform that we've discussed, we were actually able to respond immediately to the coronavirus with what was so important to us is accurate and helpful information. We are also, this is something that we do now. It's just kind of part of our day-to-day, as many of your day-to-days at work may look different, so do ours. Our content team really does sort of put a lot of their priority of their time into updating our articles as new information is discovered by World Health Organization and CDC daily, and sometimes multiple times a day. And as I mentioned before, kind of on all topics relevant or adjacent to coronavirus. So in this deck, which I think will be shared with you all after the presentation, these are all, links to our live articles. So I really encourage you to go click around and explore if you're curious about learning some of the very core key steps to preventing, identifying, or treating coronavirus, maybe ways to deal with coronavirus anxiety, ways to talk to kids, again, or students, if you're a teacher, about coronavirus, how to find reliable information, how to find mental health help, ideas for exercising and staying physically fit while staying at home. And I think the interesting thing about these topics too, let's say we're talking about how to talk to kids about coronavirus, or how to find reliable information about coronavirus. These are resources, I think, that you can use to teach yourself, so that you can effectively teach others how to do. And then everything on WikiHow is written at a certain reading level to be as accessible as possible. So you can absolutely share this, with your students, with your networks, create lessons out of them. But they do update daily in order to sort of stay on the pulse with all of this new information that we're getting all the time about how to kind of engage with COVID-19 and sort of helping flatten the curve across the world. And so I think what you guys are all really here for today is understanding, now a lot about WikiHow, where we came from, what we are. We know kind of like some practical applications of us, but more granular, specific applications of WikiHow in terms of learning during lockdown. How, can you use WikiHow to more effectively teach from home? How can you use WikiHow not only to help support your students or your children with their mental and emotional and physical health and wellness, but yourself as well? You definitely want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. So we want to make sure that we share resources for you as well. And then there will be a point, hopefully relatively soon, right? The next year or so, that we transition back to the classroom. We're not sure what this is necessarily going to look like, but we know that WikiHow will be there to help kind of with ideas and some steps kind of along the way as things change. And so I'm going to pass it back over to Hallie to sort of give you a breakdown of each of those three ways to continue to learn during lockdown with WikiHow.
Yeah, so teaching from home. So one thing we didn't mention early in the presentation is that most of our guides people find through search. So when you go to Google and you search for, or whatever search engine you use, and you search for something, you might find WikiHow. We are also trying to, so through Firki, you can find all of our teachers' guides in one place. This WikiHow Teachers Corner, which you'll have a link to, I'm sure they'll provide it at the end of the presentation with the slides, is a way that we tried to put all of those best teaching resources in one place. So articles that are really relevant to teachers, as well as maybe some articles to share with students, worksheets and answer keys, and then also a feedback and request form for new resources. This is kind of a first pass at trying to organize some of those resources that are helpful for teachers in one place. I think what's really important to us here is that we would love your feedback. So if you find some articles really helpful and you find some articles not, or you want to see more of something else, please fill out that feedback form. We're really excited to better understand what teachers need and what teachers like yourselves need. So I think this is a place where you can come and check out what WikiHow has available to you, as well as in Firki, in the Firki platform, and let us know what we can do better or what we can create for you. But so here there are some really great guides on keeping kids engaged in a remote classroom, using Zoom, teaching source credibility while kids are on the internet all the time, teaching students remotely. There's some really great things that can help you with teaching during lockdown. There are also great wellness resources. We know as teachers, you're not only teachers, you're also human beings. You know, you might be dealing with anxiety, you might be dealing with not feeling super productive. Maybe you have kids of your own and you feel really guilty about their screen time. These are all topics that WikiHow has wellness resources on that we think can be, you know, really helpful to you as a human being and a teacher. And maybe you want to share these with your students as well, you know. These are some great guides that can help you with wellness during lockdown. And then finally, there's going to be a time when we all go back to school. We don't know when that is or what exactly it's going to look like, but we want to be here with guides to help you then. Obviously, those will update over time. So we also have some additional resources that I'm going to pass it back to Allyson to talk about that are really special and cool.
Awesome. So one of those additional resources is something that we actually did a couple of years back, but I think is a really great example of our potential. It's called High School Hacks. It was a special page that we designed to be kind of a curated, packaged place for specific titles to be just a few taps away on your mobile phone for teenagers who we have, you know, identified some of their favorite articles or their most visited articles. A lot of that is on relationships or how to use social media, but also, you know, how to plan for the future, how to get into college or how to study, how to deal with gossip and bullying. So there's a lot of, you know, academic, social and emotional wellness, you know, physical wellness, you know, technology topics that we were able to curate that were relevant to your, you know, your young student, your high school student, to sort of navigate the world of being a teenager, because it's hard to do. We've also made this mobile optimized because we know teenagers tend to be on their phones a little bit more than on the laptop or the desktop. But what I think is really special about this, and I've linked it below the title if you're curious to engage with this, but I think that this is really a cool example of kind of a package that WikiHow is able to build to support other types of, you know, other groups of people and other types of content that would be really helpful to have just, you know, 1 or 2 taps away with just a click of a button. So, you know, coming together with resources for teachers or educational admin, you know, students at any level, parents of students, you know, we could create these really great curated sets of content to engage with and to sort of have as a resource in your back pocket should you ever need to go through it. We're also creating digital educational resources right now. So this is something relatively new. This is an innovation that's come out of, you know, learning during lockdown for us. And so what we've done is we've recently begun creating these hands-on lesson plans and these very, very engaged worksheets and activities that are printable or digitally downloadable for students and parents that were really curated and written in a very different style than what we're used to. So WikiHow does usually step-by-step on our free guides on wikihow.com. These are much more involved and they're currently for sale on Amazon. But we've only done this because we needed a place where we could experiment a little bit with what kind of content people actually want to see from WikiHow. So they're at their most minimum price point because Amazon won't let us post them for free. But we actually do want to make that free for you, especially as teachers, to lower that barrier to entry of help and support. So what we would like to do, if you are at all interested in checking out what some of these resources look like, testing them out with your students in your classroom, or honestly with yourself. I know maybe a lot of us are maybe parents or older siblings or tutors who are like, wow, you know, my child is working on fractions and I can't help her because I forgot how to multiply fractions myself. These guides are actually really, really great, I think, for you know, that homeschool at home learning. They can be supplemental to a lesson plan. They can be core to a lesson plan should you want that. So please feel free to email me. I'm Allyson at marketing@wikihow.com. And just let me know that you'd like to try some of these like free worksheets and maybe a subject that you're interested in checking out. And I'll send that to you for free. But we're really, really excited to understand better what kind of content will be most helpful for teachers that we can continue to create or focus on during this time of learning during lockdown. So with that said, I mean, there's also so many other things that we're working on. Hallie's working on tons of content innovations right now too, from, you know, subscribing to an email course to learn something new every day, or an online course that you can give to your students and make sure that they pass before, you know, as part of your curriculum, or before if you're a parent, are no longer grounded and you want them to learn how to clean the bathroom properly. Make them sit through this course and show you that they've completed it. There's so many use cases of a lot of this content that we're now repackaging and curating and creating. But if there's one thing I think I want you to walk away from this presentation with, it's that WikiHow is your trusted resource to not only learn, but to help teach literally anything in the world, any subject that comes up. Something that we like to say internally, like in our office, is for a better search, type WikiHow first. It's a nice little jingle, but really what that means is, you know, if you really are doubtful about how you're going to approach subject matter, maybe it's a difficult topic, something like bullying, for example, maybe it's sensitive, or maybe it's a little silly, you really can feel, we want you to know that we've put our heart and soul into every single article, and you really can feel that when you go to those articles, you're going to have a good experience. You're going to learn a lot or figure out how to help teach others. And so with that, I am not sure everybody believes us. People might think, okay, you guys are a wiki, which means like, couldn't I just go on there and edit the article and say, you know, change every word on the article to a bad word or something? And the answer is not necessarily. We have, like Hallie mentioned earlier, lots of people who come to WikiHow and they try to troll us, if you're familiar with trolling on the internet, right? They try to prank us or change our content, but we have so many dedicated volunteers and staff who see that right away, and we have all these systems in place to make sure that every edit is a good edit. And so we really try on our end when we see those edits. Sometimes they're really silly and sometimes they don't mean much to us. But if somebody needs to learn how to do it, if somebody wants to learn how to do something silly, we'll let them, because that's important. Learning, no matter what it looks like, is important. So what we're gonna play is a quick game. You don't need to go off of mute or anything. I just want you to think about it. It's called I Learned It on WikiHow, and we're gonna guess whether or not the following articles actually exist. Maybe, you know, Hallie and I made up these titles. Maybe they're a little too silly. Maybe they're not, but we want you to figure out, see if you can guess whether or not these are real articles right now live on WikiHow that you can find. Okay, so how to grow an onion from an onion. Does this exist on WikiHow? It would be cool if it did. And it does. So how to grow an onion from an onion, a very fun, practical knowledge topic, which you can see also was co-authored by an organic vegetable gardener. It's got lots of helpfulness ratings. It's been co-authored by 11 people who have likely done this with success. So it's very cool, kind of these little things you can learn how to do on WikiHow. Okay, how about how to apologize to a cat? Is this article worthy of being on WikiHow? The answer is yes, it is. This article truly does exist on WikiHow and has a nice helpfulness rating of 84% people who've done this with success. No matter how silly it might seem, you know, WikiHow is there to help you, because at some point, somebody sincerely wanted to learn how to apologize to a cat that they upset, and we're here to tell you how to do that. And finally, do we have an article on potentially starting your own country? If you said yes, you were right. This one was also, you can see, co-authored by a WikiHow staff editor, which means we put our PhDs to work on this to think about, you know, in theory, if someone were to start a new country, how would you do that? And we have those steps laid out on wikihow.com live right now, because we know that that learning journey, no matter what topic it is important. And we have treated these fun articles, from growing an onion from an onion to apologizing to a cat to starting your own country, with the same love and attention as we would with our kind of maybe more intensive or heavy topics, because to us, every topic is important and should be trusted. Wonderful. So now I think we're at this point in the presentation where we've told you lots about what's going on at WikiHow. and lots about what we're doing, but we really want to know from you. That's why we're here today, is actually to learn from you, constantly learning. We all are, about what WikiHow can do to support right now during COVID and learning during lockdown and being socially distant. We can guess so much of what teachers want and need, especially, but the best people to ask are the people, you know, that are in this webinar right now, and the people that will be watching it for their feedback, who are kind of doing this work in real life, in real time. So we have four poll questions. Mansi, are we going to be able to do, put the poll up now? Is it live?
Yes, it's
wonderful. Great. Would it be possible for you to explain how people can use the poll? I'm not quite sure myself. I don't want to give the wrong information. Okay, looks like you guys are doing it in terms of these, perfect, in terms of these four questions.
They'll be able to answer things from there.
Wonderful. So you'll see with some of these questions that we've kind of put a couple of answers in terms of the resources that, you know, you're looking for but haven't found, or some of the hardest parts about teaching. And we do encourage you to hit that button that says other to give us a more specific feedback. That will really help us generate new ideas for, you know, continuing to help teachers in free and accessible ways. So we would love for you to, I encourage you to take the more challenging route and hit the other button and see if we can't follow up with what any specific ideas you have about, you know, giving us feedback on what is the hardest part of teaching right now, or being online, being in a virtual classroom, what resources you are using that you really like, or maybe things that you've just had a really hard time finding. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Great. About half of you guys have voted already. Wonderful. Okay, this feedback is going to be very important for us. So just, I guess we can go over a little bit of what these look like, but looks like student engagement is the hardest part of teaching online right now. And I'm sure that a lot of that has to do with, you know, students having access to the internet, students being online and in the classroom on time, students being able to, you know, you being able to have that connection with your students. But again, we really encourage you to follow up with us to give us more insight into why student engagement and what about student engagement is challenging right now, so that we can kind of help to address that. Same with resources that you're currently using that you love. A lot of you are using free resources. What are those? What do you love about them? How can WikiHow kind of be part of that? What resources have you found? Have you looked for but haven't found? Resources for you as teachers. You should be the most appreciated people on the planet right now. What can we build for you specifically that you need? It's really great for us to know that teacher resources are lacking. What kind of resources do you want? And in terms of content in Hindi, English, or both, a lot of you said English, or a lot of you said both. That's very good for us to know, as we have the capability to create everything we've created in English in Hindi, so that we can kind of move forward to continue to do that. Wonderful. So I'll move this over here. We would love to jump into Q&A. Here, listed on this slide is a list of questions that we hope were covered during this presentation. And you know, these really Hallie did a fantastic job basically combining and going through everybody's feedback before the webinar, and listing out these presentations that we really wanted to hit these points during the presentation. But if there's any questions specifically that you guys had asked during this presentation that we can answer, we would love to have an open discussion now.
Yeah, thank you so much for that lovely presentation, both of you. What we've been doing here at the back end is all the questions that have come across in chat boxes as well as FB Live. I have a list of them here. We can go through them one by one. Does that work?
Perfect.
Oh wow, more questions are coming. All right. So, if I want to partner with WikiHow for a specific learning product, can you please let me know the contact so that if someone wants to partner with you guys for a specific product, what would that be?
Hallie, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that one, Allyson. Please email us at marketing@wikihow.com. Put Firki in the subject line and we will make sure to check that. We'd love to hear what you have in mind and we can get back to you specifically, because we do partner with teachers and educators on specific products. So depending on what you have in mind, it could totally be possible.
Yeah, and I think we're really, really open to things that we've never thought about before. So if you have an idea that might seem a little bit crazy, we're the perfect people to talk to about that. We love fresh new ideas and we love getting creative and brainstorming ways that we can work together.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that we're a small team, like Allyson said, less than 30 people. We're really flexible and we're excited about experimenting. That's what I do a lot in my role as a business development manager. And I think we're not like one of these tech giants that you're never gonna get to reach. You know, we're really on the other side of that email. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
There's a very interesting question. What do you do when a conflict arises between writers? Like, let's say on one topic, two writers have opposing opinions. What do you do?
Yeah, so before I mentioned that our community is really amazing, I think one thing that's really cool is in the early days of WikiHow, our founder was really dedicated to creating a community on WikiHow of volunteers that was gonna like make every page as good as it could possibly be. And part of that was actually training a lot of our best volunteers in nonviolent communication strategies. So learning how to really communicate and resolve conflict was a part of the training that our community went through to better participate on WikiHow. So community has a certain set of rules and standards that if you come and join and try and edit on WikiHow, you can't just like start editing right away necessarily. You have to kind of learn how to be a part of the community. And that's where there are kind of standards and principles for how to engage and deal with conflict. And that's actually a key part of, you know, our principles at WikiHow is how we train our community members to resolve conflict and work productively together and collaborate on an article.
Yeah, and I think you really will never see two titles that are directly opposed. When two titles are similar or on a similar subject matter or topic, you know, we will include them usually all in one title with many methods. So many ways of approaching it, even if those ways might be a little bit different. But there are many ways to do something. I think a really funny example is how to stop the hiccups. I think that article has like, I don't know, I haven't looked at it lately, 60 different ways to do that. And some of them might be very, very, very effective or very silly, but on topics where there might be two opposing opinions about how to do it, we're going to offer all of the potential ways you could try that we feel make sense and are researched and, you know, have some support behind them in terms of references and citations. And we'll put that all kind of under the same subject, under the same title to avoid too much sort of information overload or conflict.
So yeah, Allyson makes a good point. It does also come down to what's credible. You know, you can have an opinion about something that's wrong, so or that's not well researched. So making sure that whenever there's a conflict, that there's research and citations about, you know, either possibility.
Great. Thank you so much. There are more questions. What will be the impact on kids' learning attitude or making by their own as they find most of the things ready-made? I think the question basically means what does it, if WikiHow sort of shows how to do everything, do you think that will negatively or positively impact how students learn or sort of construct knowledge?
That's a great question. I think in that it can be really difficult to say, and I'm hesitant to say whether it will be more positive or more negative, just because everybody learns so differently, and so we really tried to neutralize that. Our guides, if you look at a WikiHow guide, every step starts with an action, something to do, something to take, and so we really hope that, I think that really makes, you might not even think about it while you're reading it, but really makes our content kind of hands-on. It makes you think about what actions to take rather than just maybe the theory of kind of how to do something. And so hopefully, students, that's a positive thing for students to learn about how to take an action and take an active role in their learning journey. And it's something that you might not even think about when reading a WikiHow article, but it's really interesting once you've noticed it, that every step, even if it's the first step is consider or think about this, consider this. We think that really provides an open and neutral sort of platform for learning that to us has been very beneficial to all types of people, all types of learning styles, all types of abilities in the classroom, both reading abilities and kind of comprehension, but also learning styles. We did mention, I think,
thank you so
a lot
much.
yeah.
Question is, does WikiHow do anything related to learning languages such as Thai, Catalan, Thai and Catalan? These languages are not really catered by most language websites.
That's actually a wonderful feedback. We want to make WikiHow available in those languages. And then also we do have content about how to learn languages. I don't think we have content on those specifically, but the beautiful thing is that should we need to make that, or should somebody want that content for their classroom, they can put in a request on the website to have those articles made, and we'll be able to go in and write them or call out to our community to say, hey, does anybody know how to do this? Where can we start creating these resources? And that's the beautiful thing, I think, about being a collaborative website, is that you can request the content that you want but can't find anywhere else, and we'll get that made for you.
Question is there an age certificate on your articles? I think the question is mainly, how do we as teachers sort of know which content is age appropriate for what group of students? So is there a way to filter this or look for it?
So for the most part, all of our articles are written at a 7th grade reading level. So for students 7th grade and above, the content should be appropriate. We've, on a few select articles, started to kind of make different age options available. So for example, with the California Science Center, we're working on stuff for K through 2 and 3 through 5, and we're just marking that in the article title. But for the most part, everything on WikiHow is 7th grade and up reading level wise. You might have some kids in 5th grade who can totally hang and read it, but that's kind of where we benchmark everything.
Yeah, and we also have started creating warnings or kind of notations at the very, very top and beginning of the article before you get into the content. There is no filter, so there's no way for you to sort of turn on child mode or something and hide those articles. Everything is available. That is part of our philosophy about being an open learning and sharing platform. Nothing on WikiHow would endanger another person. We definitely won't write that kind of content. But things about maybe sexual health and wellness, or things that might be, I apologize for the morbidity, but things about, mental health, suicide, that might be topics that aren't totally appropriate for very young readers quite yet. Those are live on WikiHow, but we've treated them with so much caution and so much careful attention that when it is time to learn about those things, we're there for you, and we're there in support in kind of an open and neutral capacity. But there is not currently a way for you to sort of filter for those articles. I think, just making sure our responsibility is to make sure that that kind of content is as accurate and is, clear as possible.
Sure. Thank you. Those are all the questions that we had so far. I hope you guys enjoyed the webinar.
This was so much fun. I could
Thank
talk
you
about,
so
I know
much,
Hallie
Emma.
could too. We could talk about WikiHow for hours. So again, if you do have any questions to follow up with, you will be emailing myself and Hallie directly. If you want to talk to us further, we will be on the other end of that email.
Thank you so much for that. We would now like to thank Allyson and Hallie for being generous with their time and expertise today. I request both of them to please also quickly share your thoughts on the webinar.
So this has been so much fun. You guys are so engaged. My favorite part was probably hearing everyone's voices in the beginning. It's really wonderful for everyone to come together. I think we're all very passionate about education right now and how we can help each other. And so that just makes me feel so good to be kind of involved in that in any small way that we can.
Yeah, thank you everyone for all your questions. It was fun watching the chat and just seeing what was coming up for people. Please feel free again to email us, fill out that feedback form, go look at all of our resources. We're really excited to hear what you have to say, and hopefully this was somewhat informative and engaging. It's been really an honor to participate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the participants for being so engaged and just generally being a great audience. Our next webinar is scheduled to take place on 29th on managing self and time. So do look for Firki emails in your inbox for information on upcoming webinars. Before you leave, please take a minute to give us feedback on your learning experience on our webinar today. This helps us grow and improve our resources for you. The link is there in your chat box as we speak. To reach out to our speakers after the webinar, write to marketing@wikihow.com. Please mention Firki in the subject line of your mail so that it's easy for them to sort out what. Check out the WikiHow site, which is basically www.wikihow.com. You can also follow WikiHow across different social media platforms using the handle @wikihow. To know more, then all this information is, by the way, pasted in our chat box as we speak. Thank you so much, both of you. Again, I hope you have a great day ahead. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Good evening to you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice night.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you
Hello,
for
bye.
sharing all these information. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you for every
Thank you.
information.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Lovely session.
Thank you.